100 billion from edible oil to maize to rice to all those 500 billion US dollars we are importing. Uganda does not import that much food. Tanzania does not import that much food. We are the only country that imports that much food. Why? Because we haven't paid as much attention to agriculture. And number two, we need to understand that while Uganda 80% is arable with rain, Kenya only 15% is arable with rain. Tanzania is a completely different story. Almost 60% of their land has rain and is arable. Ours only 15%. That's why we are importing $500 million of food into Kenya. So what we need to do, we need to pay attention to our agriculture. The reason why we have invested, and that is why in the manifesto that I sold to the people of Kenya, agriculture, modernization, mechanization is one of the big tickets that I decided that I'm going to do. We have changed the trajectory on our staple food. Today, we are producing more in terms of maize, which is our staple food. In fact, my plan is that by next year, we shouldn't be importing maize into Kenya. We should be produced enough. This year, we have increased our production of maize by 40%, more than we did last year. Last year, we produced 44 million bags. We are producing 61 million bags this year. And it is because we have done interventions. Fertilizer that was being sold at 7,000, we are now selling at 2,500 because we are supporting production. We are full scale into the space of edible oil that we are importing. I am working with different governors. This year, we are working on sunflower, we are working on soya, we are working on palm oil. The president of Indonesia was here. We have agreed on a whole chain because they are the biggest country that we import edible oil from. They are going to work with us to grow palm oil in Kenya. That project is being led by county governments. In fact, it is being led by Gladys Wanga, the county governor of Homa Bay, because it is in the coastal region and around Lake Victoria that we will have the biggest space and the biggest opportunity for us to produce palm oil. We are going to do more around sunflower. We are going to do more so that we also stem the tide of loss of dollars into other jurisdictions because of food imports. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that I am doing. Number three, I am also looking at how are we going to get more foreign exchange into Kenya. That is why I am working round the clock to make sure that we have more Kenyans working in Kenya, in foreign companies when they are in Kenya, and we are also connecting Kenyans to opportunities outside Kenya. For your information, just so that I conclude, I made a commitment in our plan that we want to increase foreign remittances coming into Kenya, hard currency that comes into Kenya from foreign remittance from $4 billion to $10 billion. It is the reason why we just concluded a diaspora investment conference here in KICC this week. It is the reason why I have signed a bilateral agreement, labor agreement with Saudi, with UAE, with Germany, with Canada, and many other countries. We are exploring possibilities. And for your information, as a result of those, what I have been doing, between now and next month, January, the first 10,000 Kenyans will be leaving to go and work in foreign countries so that they can support themselves and support Kenya, because many countries have established a strategy on how to grow their foreign exchange earnings.
On the other hand, maybe still on the government-to-government deals, is it giving us as a nation the desired results.
Absolutely.
8 months down the line.
Absolutely. In fact, that same government product or program, many countries are seeking to know how they can copy that program, because it is giving us what we couldn't have gotten in a different way.
Then how can we control the prices now? You see, fuel, it's been up and down. Right now we're talking of 210, 212 per litre.
Ali Manzu.
Yes.
You heard me say this. The price of fuel is not determined by the government of Kenya. It is not determined by any company. It is determined by the producers. That is why today the price of fuel in Kenya is the same price in Uganda, is the same price in Tanzania, because we buy from the same place.
Mheshimiwa Rais,
I've heard people say the president should reduce the price to 150.
Tutarudi kwa hilo baadaye, Mheshimiwa Rais.
How are you going to do that? Unless I take taxpayers' money and go and subsidize, which is removing money from this pocket and putting it in this other pocket.
Mheshimiwa Rais,
tunaposema kwamba bei ya mafuta serikali haina uwezo mkubwa kuhusiana na bei ya mafuta. Itakumbuka kwamba wakati wa kampeni kabla hujawa rais, ulisema kwamba bei ya mafuta wakati wa utawala wa Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta ilisababishwa na wale ambao waliwaita cartels, na zaidi ukaeleza kuhusiana na ushuru mwingi. Nini kilibadilika?
Hakuna kitu kimebadilika. Mambo ya ushuru, nimepunguza ushuru kwa mafuta, nimepunguza ushuru ya road development levy, nimepunguza ushuru ya railway development levy na ilikuwa kwa budget. Tumepunguza ushuru mara 4 in 4 different categories. But you see, that is not sufficient to reduce the price, because the price of oil itself is going up because of the producers.
Ni sawa kusema kwamba changamoto za kimataifa zinaathiri bei ya mataifa nchini.
You see, changamoto za kimataifa na bei ya fuel ya kimataifa imechangia. Amesema huyu mrembo kwamba tumeongeza bei ya VAT. Ni kweli, tumeongeza bei ya VAT, lakini tumepunguza ushuru zingine. Tunaongeza bei ya VAT kwa sababu gani? Kenya tuko katika kiwango inaitwa middle income economy. We are in the same category as South Africa. We are in the same category as Morocco. We are in the same category as Tunisia. I want you to check their taxes, because our taxes are now at 15.6% of GDP. 15.6% of GDP. Taxes in South Africa is 27% of GDP. Taxes in Morocco is 32% of GDP. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to answer the question, because the people of Kenya are being pushed and being told, look, you are paying more taxes than other countries. Is that true? That is not true.
Now, Mheshimiwa Rais,
we are paying the same taxes like all countries that are in our same category. And let me tell you the difference so that you can take the chance. Let me tell you the category. If we go to the market, the countries that are in LDCs, they get a lower interest rate than those of us who are in middle income. So you cannot compare them and us. We are in a different category. And for your information, countries like France, their tax as a percentage of GDP is 45%. We are only at 15.6%. That's the difference.
Na Mheshimiwa Rais, bado tuko kwa hili swala la shilingi na dola. Umezungumzia miradi tofauti hapa ambayo mmeweka katika mpango wa kuweza kupunguza hiyo dola ambayo shilingi iweze kuwa na thamani. Swala la mahindi umesema by mwaka ujao Aprili hapo pengine swala la mahindi tutapunguza kuimport na mambo kama hayo. Ukatajwa masuala kuhusu pia edible oil na miradi ambayo ipo. Lakini Mkenya pale nje anajiuliza watasubiri hadi lini hii shilingi iweze kupata thamani yake ili maisha yaweze kuwa sawa?
Wakenya watazubiri kwa sababu dola sio serikali ya Kenya inaamua. Dola ni biashara, ni kati ya zile vitu tunauza na vile tunanunua. Ndio tunapata ile uwezo wa kudhibiti. Kwa sasa kuna vitu nyingi tunaagiza kutoka nje. Na ndio nimesema ili kupunguza vitu ambazo tunaagiza kutoka nje, lazima tuanze kuzitengeneza hapa Kenya. Simiti, nimesema ya kwamba, na tumeweka katika budget ya mwaka huu, ya kwamba simiti itakuwa inatengenezwa Kenya. Kwa sababu tuko na kampuni, tutapanua kampuni ambazo tuko nazo, ndio tuweze kuokoa dola ambazo tunatumia kuagiza simiti. Chuma, tutaanza kutengeneza Kenya. Tayari tuko na kampuni ya kutosha kutengeneza Kenya. Furniture tutatengeneza Kenya.
Kwa hivyo,
chakula tutazalisha Kenya. Ndio tuweze kupunguza ile dola ambazo pesa ambazo tunatumia ya kigeni kuagiza vitu ambazo zinakuja Kenya, ndio tuweze kumanage ile exchange rate.
Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Rais, hadi hapo Mkenya ataendelea kukandamizika.
Hadi hapo, unajua sasa hakuna miujiza itafanyika. Unajua sasa wewe unataka kufanya miracles. Hakuna miracle. You know, this is what is happening globally.
Mr. President,
we live in a global economy and we need to understand. And it is very important for us sitting here to tell the people of Kenya that, because you know, many people are saying the price of fuel. I want to tell the people of Kenya, the price of fuel is not controlled by the government of Kenya. That's why I was saying yesterday, many people are praising me that, oh, you see, we have now begun to see the prices of fuel coming down. I told them, no, musinisifu, I have not, hakuna kitu nimefanya, ni wale wanatuuzia wameanza kupunguza bei sawa na bei ya mafuta.
Mr. President, we'll get to fuel. We shall get to that, Mr. President, but I want to ask something my colleague Sam asked earlier. So did you promise what you couldn't deliver?
I promised, in the context of where we are, if things had stayed constant, I would have kept my promise. But you know, we live in a situation that things are changing. The world, we live in a global environment, that the prices are going up. You cannot keep unless, and I don't want to lie to the people of Kenya and say, let me spend public money so that I look like I am keeping my promise and I am doing the wrong thing. It is better for me to be brutally honest and say, this is not possible. We may have made a commitment, but because the situation changed and everybody knows what that situation is today, the prices of commodities went up. You heard Uhuru Kenyatta say he was not the one who started the war in Ukraine, you know, and all the other things. But that is okay.
Mr. President,
what we must be honest to ourselves is, are we doing the best to manage the situation so that doesn't flip and go in the wrong direction? And I want to tell you, yes.
Mr. President, I thank you for that response. And to be brutally honest, just to pick up from where you are sitting, I think Kenyans know that it's actually true that government has a big role to play in terms of the fuel prices. It's not true that government doesn't play, because 40% of the taxes, between 40 to 45% of the fuel price in Kenya is actually government taxes. So government has a big role to play on that. I think we need to move to energy now that we are as energy.
Just before that, Paul, Mr. President, I hear you, and I've listened to you carefully saying that if things had remained constant, and I was hoping that you'd explain what is that constant, because you also say
if the US dollar had not been, the exchange rate was not, if the US interest rate was not increased.
It was increasing already.
It was increasing, but you know, it has reached a place where everybody thought it was going to stop. But the next 3-4 increases were completely unexpected. Even today, all of us expected that they would begin to come down. But they've decided to keep it.
Okay. And Mr. President...
and you see, while my good brother here said the government has a lot of say on taxes.
Yeah.
You see, my friend, while it is true that I can tomorrow say, let us reduce the taxes, it is also true that tomorrow For every 10 shillings I collect, every 10 shillings, 7 shillings go to paying debt. Are you telling me that you want me to do what other countries have done, to default on debt? Because that's the only option I have. I can say, okay, let us pay less, and then let's tell the international community Kenya cannot service debt. Is that what you want us to do? That would be very...
And Mr. President, that's what I was asking you.
So precisely, you cannot say, it is simplistic for you to say, yes, the government can, 40% of fuel is taxes. The government can decide tomorrow to lower the taxes. But you know, those taxes we are collecting, we have education to fund. First, we have 7 shillings for every 10 to pay debt, which William Ruto did not accumulate, right? Number 2, the 3 other shillings, we have to pay our children to go to school. We have to manage our security. We have to manage our health. We have to manage everything else. We have to pay our teachers. So, are you telling me, I go and tell teachers, I don't have salary for you this month because I have to reduce the price of fuel. Do you think that would be reasonable?
Maybe just, Mr. President, on that issue, just hold on to that thought a bit, because if you look at the prices of fuel, what has happened is that we are looking at consumption. If I look at the last data, the last 3 months data, consumption of fuel has actually dropped to a 5-year low. And if you look at even KRA, the collection, they missed the target. They were off the ordinary revenue by about 31 billion Kenya shillings. So what is happening is, yes, on this end, you have a plan to collect taxes, but these taxes are not coming through to Kenya Revenue Authority. And on the other end, you are killing the economy because you have people not moving, consumption, because oil and electricity basically will tell you what is happening in the economy. For your information, your figures are wrong. Okay. Because if you look at the taxes that have been collected from fuel, they've gone up. That's the correct position. So the other taxes are the ones that they have not met the targets. And why haven't they met the targets? Because I gave them a very high target.
Mr. President,
because I wanted them to do much more than they are doing.
Mr. President, let's just take a look at the data.
So don't misrepresent facts.
Let's talk about
the correct position.
The data you have from the Kenya Revenue Authority, because they're the ones who collect the revenue in their report. In the first quarter, ended September 2023, the oil taxes, the target was 84.6 billion shillings. They collected 77.7 billion shillings. Similar period last year, it was 78.5 billion shillings. That's a drop of about 800 million shillings. So indeed, for quarter 1, there has been a reduction. If you're to speak about the volumes, the same quarter, diesel in 2022, quarter 1, it was 1.15 metric tons, 1.5 million metric tons. This time round, the same quarter, it is 1.05 metric tons, a reduction of 56,000 metric tons. For petrol, 770,000 for quarter 1, 2022. Quarter 1 this year, it is 742,000, a reduction of 28,000 metric tons. So there has been a reduction. The difference comes in because the taxes are higher, more expensive than it was last year.
That is not the correct position, my friend.
Those are figures from KRA.
Let me explain to you.
Okay.
We import fuel for Kenya, but 40% of that fuel goes to Uganda, Rwanda, and sometimes all the way to DRC. With the eastern DRC get fuel from Kenya, right? So when you look at the figures, you must know that there is a component of fuel that is not sold in Kenya, that is sold outside Kenya. That you must know.
KRA reports about the revenue, isn't it?
That's what you must know first.
Yeah.
Right? So when you are looking at the quantities and the numbers, you need to factor that into the equation. All right? And secondly, we are beginning to look at other alternatives. A lot more people now we've connected to electricity. People who are using diesel. In fact, this year, most of our thermal energy electricity generation has gone down. Why? Because we have moved the number of Kenyans on electricity from 2.3 in 2013 to now 9.4. So we have more Kenyans who are not using diesel. We have more companies. We have more infrastructure who are using diesel that now we have connected to electricity. That explains some of the reduction. If you look at
but this is a direct consequence from the Finance Act of 2023.
That's not the correct position. I am telling you
KRA is reporting,
more and
Mr.
more.
President.
Exactly. So why I'm telling you the quantities that have gone down is because more people are not using diesel, especially in the big companies. If you look at what we are saying, because we have made it possible for them to use electricity. We have reduced in certain cases electricity for industrial power, so that instead of them powering their mechanism using diesel, they are now using electricity that we are generating. And it is partly why we have connected more people to electricity.
Je, Mheshimiwa Rais, tukisalia tu kwa swala la bei ya mafuta na hii project ama tunaweza sema hii G2G deal ama mpango wa G2G deal.
Correct.
Azma yake ilikuwa ni kupunguza hata bei ya mafuta. Je, did we achieve the required results?
Wewe ndio umesema azma yake ni kupunguza bei. Azma yake ilikuwa ni kuhakikisha kwamba number one, we have fuel. Because when I came into office, people were queuing in petrol stations for fuel. True? That was the case. Now, nobody is queuing in any petrol station. We have continuous supply. Number two, half the companies in Kenya, fuel companies, had closed down. Today, no company is operating outside the net. Every company has fuel. Number three, local companies were buying fuel in US dollars. Today, they are buying it in Kenya shillings. If you ask any Kenyan company that is selling fuel, our oil marketers across Kenya, they are very happy with the deal we structured. And number three, we have removed pressure on the US dollars. In fact, when I came into office, there are many companies who are considering relocating from Kenya. Why? Because if you can't have foreign currency to pay your dividends for companies that are not Kenyan, there was a backlog of almost 8 months of companies that had not paid dividends for their investors because there was no dollars in the market. Today, I have made sure that though the dollar is high, but it is available.
Mheshimiwa Rais, katika sikukuu ya Jamhuri ulisema kwamba uchumi wa taifa umeimarika
Kabisa.
Siku chache kabla ya hotuba yako, Naibu Rais Rigathi Gachagua alikuwa amesema huenda kachukua muda hata wa takriban miaka 10 hivi katika kushughulikia masuala muhimu ya wananchi. Wakati fulani Waziri wa Fedha Henry Rotich akasema kwamba
hapana.
Waziri wa Fedha Njuguna Ndung'u akasema kwamba hali ni ngumu kwa taifa, hasa kulipa mishahara na masuala mengine ambayo yanahusiana na fedha. Hali ya uchumi iko vipi Mheshimiwa Rais?
Na tukisalia hapo Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi amesema 3 years. You know, to quote him verbatim, he's forecasting a difficult 2 to 3 years, asking Kenyans to bear the burden. So just like Kitu here is asking, during your manifesto launch, Mr. President, you called it the plan. Is there a plan for economic recovery? Because you are saying this, your deputy is saying another thing, Treasury CS, a different thing, Prime Cabinet Secretary. I mean, this should be one government that speaks in one voice. And Kenyans themselves, Mr. President, wanaumia.
Wakenya wanasikiza pia, huyu anasema hivi, huyu anasema hivi.
Tuliza boli.
Tumelituliza. Nani anasema kweli?
Sikizeni. Nimesema hivi, nataka kuwajibu nyinyi wote watatu. Mimi nimesema, if you read my statement, I said our economy today is out of debt distress. And that is the truth. For your information, if I didn't step in, let me even say, if I wasn't president, the kind of decisions I have made, very difficult decisions, you know, very painful decisions, decisions that I know they will cause pain, but it is better we make those decisions now than get Kenya into that distress. There are almost 8 countries in our continent, including one that went into debt distress. I don't want to mention countries, you know them, last almost 3 weeks or 1 month. That is the worst thing that can happen to any country, to go into debt distress. We are now out of debt distress. Our economy is stable, but the difficult patch is still there. We still have to navigate. All we have done is to avoid the cliff, right? That we have avoided because we have negotiated, we have put brakes on expenditure. We have negotiated a good package with the World Bank, with IMF, with development partners, with bilateral countries, China, Europe, and everywhere. And that's why I have been on the road so many times. People ask, what is he doing? It was necessary for me to step in and stabilize so that Kenya does not go into debt distress. Let me tell you what Ndungu was saying. Ndungu was in parliament.
That's actually where I was headed. He says the government is broke.
Ndungu was in parliament, and he was being pushed. Oh, you need to do this more. Ndungu was telling them, look, we don't have the kind of money you're talking about. We don't have money to increase this and to increase this and to increase this. That is the correct position. We have, and that is why we are cutting back on many aspects, because this is what is required at this point in time. It is the difficult decisions we have to make now so that tomorrow looks better.
Mheshimiwa Rais, ufafanuzi wako wa uchumi kuimarika ni nini wakati ambapo Wakenya wengi wanalalamikia gharama ya maisha?
And you see, what Musalia is saying is for us to be able to get to a place where we can say we are good, you know, that things are moving, there is money in the pocket, we can feed ourselves, we can do everything. It takes time, right?
How long?
And it takes time because
how long, Mr. President?
You want me to say 3 months, 5 months, 1 year?
No, you're quoting your Prime Cabinet Secretary who says 2 to 3 years.
Relax. Yeah. Because we are not in charge of all the factors that will finally determine where we are going, let us give ourselves time. But I want to promise the people of Kenya that we will sort this situation out.
Mheshimiwa Rais, unaposema uchumi umeimarika, ufafanuzi wako uchumi kuimarika ni nini hasa wakati ambapo Wakenya wanalalamikia gharama ya maisha?
Number 1. Na ni vizuri umeuliza gharama ya maisha. Gharama ya maisha inachangiwa na vitu vitatu. Ya kwanza ni gharama ya chakula. Right? Na nikisema uchumi iko na uchumi ya tumbo. Nataka nikuulize.
December is heerlijk, maar heel eerlijk soms ook een beetje veel. Kom dan lekker naar Getaway Island in de McDonald's app. Voor supergoeie deals, games en dikke prijzen. Oh, en houd je ogen open voor gratis merchandise. Check nu de McDonald's app.
Na Wakenya wenzangu, tumefanya lolote kupunguza gharama ya chakula? Yes, we have done major steps. The price of food items is today lower than it was a year ago. It is a fact. Lakini, of course, it's not convenient for certain people to accept. That's number 1. Number 2, globally, where is Kenya? Uchumi wa numbers, and these are not my figures. We've brought down inflation from 9 point something to now 6.8. Those are figures, global figures of the World Bank. Number 2, our economy is growing at 5.4%. Not my figures, World Bank figures, right? In fact, they quote Kenya is the 29th fastest growing economy globally. Those are figures out there. Of course, many people don't want to accept. I know that there is still no money in people's pockets. Uchumi wa mfuko
bado
ndio bado. Yeah?
Are
we doing something about it? Yes. That is why we are spending more money in education. Yeah? We are putting more money in education. In fact, this year we are putting an extra 120 billion in education. To do what? To make sure that we reduce outlay by Kenyans to fund education. Number 2, we are putting more money in health. That is why we've passed 4 laws. What do we want to do? We want to make sure every ordinary citizen has a health insurance. Those who are paying 500 will come down to 300. We are going to make sure that we don't leave nobody behind. That is why I am going out of my way to create jobs. Today, as I talk to you, because you need to put money in people's pockets. Today, as I talk to you, 120,000 people are working in a housing program. Today, as I talk to you, we are working on export of labor, making sure that we connect Kenyans to jobs abroad. Today, as I talk to you, we are expanding the space of digital jobs. We just passed the law so that we can create ICT hubs across Kenya. I have already negotiated for digital jobs globally. Kenyans are very good at it. We are going to spread opportunities so that people can put money in their pockets. So that's why I'm saying we need a plan. You know, it is easy to say, let us do quick fixes. We have been doing quick fixes for a long time, and we haven't gotten it right. Many people wanted me to do a quick fix by subsidizing unga. I told them, let us not subsidize unga. Let us promote production. We will eventually get the right results better.
Mheshimiwa Rais, awali kulikuwa na mazingira mazuri pengine ya kufanyia biashara. Tunavyoona sasa, sijui kama palikoseka wapi, pengine unaweza kutueleza, manake kulikuwa na mazingira mazuri ya kufanya biashara. Kuna takwimu ambazo zimetolewa hata na FKE nadhani wakisema kwamba kuna makampuni ama kuna Wakenya takriban 70,000 ambao wameachishwa kazi. Katika serikali yako mheshimiwa, palikoseka nini haswa pale mpaka mazingira ya kufanya kazi yakawa magumu kiasi cha kwamba 84% ya Wakenya wanasema kwamba maisha ni magumu, na hizi ni takwimu ambazo ziko zaidi ya 50 kwa mara ya kwanza katika Mkenya kusema kwamba maisha ni magumu na pesa haionekani.
Na tukisalia hapo Mr. President, because it's just based on what she said, are you aware that 87% of Kenyans, your people, Mr. President, that is 9 out of 10, have opted to reduce on personal expenditure because of the current economy? Watu wana opt kutokula, which is what we're talking about, uchumi ya tumbo. They are foregoing food because of the current situation.
Good. I want you to read a clip or even a text. It was in the Standard. 10 months after Kibaki became president, the same number of Kenyans said NAC and President Kibaki had made their life worse than ever because Kibaki decided to make the right decisions, not popular decisions, right? 10 months after he was president. We are in the same space. But let me tell you the following, that it is true. We are facing a difficult situation. We are facing a difficult situation because that is the global situation. But are we doing something about it? Yes, we are doing something about it. Is it bearing results? Yes, it's bearing results. The price of food is coming down because of our intervention, by God's grace. The global economy is appreciating what Kenya is doing. Let me go to FKE. FKE said 70,000 Kenyans have lost jobs or have gotten out of jobs. Part of those 70,000 Kenyans, for your information, are teachers who are working in private schools, who we have hired as government. Now they are teaching in, we have hired 56,000 teachers as teachers. We have hired an additional 120,000 people working in our housing program. We have a plan to make sure that we keep increasing. We have only 31 sites of our housing program. We have another 34 that will be rolled out the first quarter of next year. By the end of next year, we will have between 200 and 250,000 Kenyans working. So the economy is adjusting towards where we want to go. We do not want to be an export destination for others. We also want to produce what we should be producing. And that is why we are working on the difficult patch for now so that we can stabilize the future.
Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Rais, unakubali kwamba Wakenya 70,000 kweli walifutwa kazi ama walikosa kazi?
Sikubali, wao ndio wamesema. Mimi nimekuambia. Na
wakaandikwa na serikali. Kumaanisha ni makampuni yaliyo humu pengine yalifunga wakatoka ndo wakaja wakaandikwa na serikali, ama hawa walikuwa ni wa kutoka?
Waacha sasa nikwambie, wale wamesema, yale wamesema. What I have told you is what I can vouch. Have I hired 56,000 teachers? Yes. Are there 120,000 people working in our housing program? Yes. So as to what on FKE side, you need to verify the figures.
Mr. President, Sam, just 1 second. You have talked about pain and that Kenyans need to, appreciate the pain and the process like President Kibaki did. And State House and where you sit, you set the tone for whatever government agencies and officers below you do.
That's correct.
And you are asking Kenyans to be patient. You're asking Kenyans to tighten their belt. But if you look at your administration and State House, to be specific, and other officials, look at foreign travel has been up 26% just this ending quarter to 1.1 billion. And Kenyans are feeling quite taxed. And the hustlers that you represent are looking around the numbers that we are discussing today, and they're wondering, where have we missed this? Because on one end, you're asking Kenyans to be, to bear with government, to tighten their belts. The Treasury is saying things are bad. You're saying you're preventing us from, going off the cliff. But on the other end, the extravagance in government is really still heavy. How do you reconcile these two situations?
I will answer you this way. Go and look at the budget. We have cut by 50% the budget for travel and entertainment. 50%. Right? In the supplementary budget, just go and check the figures. That is about 11 billion shillings that we have reduced. Have I traveled more than the former presidents? Yes. And I have traveled not as a tourist. I have traveled to sort out the matters of Kenya. If I didn't package what I have packaged to salvage our country from going over the cliff, we'd be talking a different story. Would you rather I sit in Nairobi and see Kenya go down, or would you rather I go to America, and America has really supported us in making sure that we structure a deal with World Bank and IMF? Would I travel to China to make sure that we structure the bilateral deal that will see all our roads come back? Would you rather I don't travel, or I travel to South Korea to sort out the problem you see in our electricity space, that we now have money to do what the investment we have not done in the last 10 years in our energy transmission? The reason why you find the blackouts, and is the challenge we have with our transmission infrastructure. And I have found resources to now sort that out. So would you rather I sit here, or I look for the bilateral agreements that will give Kenyans an opportunity to work abroad and to work at home on digital jobs? This is what a president is supposed to do. And I can account for every shilling that I have spent on my travel. And let me say this. On the budget of State House, there were so many things around the State House, including the famous NMS. Part of the money that was being allocated to State House was to pay contracts, NMS contracts, and many other things, which I have said must stop. And because I want to lead the way in making sure that we manage what eventually is destroying our country, called bending bills. And for your information, we have 506 billion of pending bills. You know, I need to lead the way. That's why I instructed staff in State House that State House must be the first one to clear pending bills. Most of the monies that have come here is to sort out NMS and all the other people that were here. And I have said those infrastructure should be transferred to the parent ministries. Okay. State House must deal with State House matters.
Mr. President, we've spoken about three issues. We've spoken about the Kenya shilling and how it's behaving against the major currencies, global currencies. We've spoken a bit of energy and what is happening in the field sector. We also touched on cost of living. We have so much to cover tonight, and I just seek indulgence that we can be first in our responses, but also the questions. That question that you say we were on a cliff, debt cliff, and now we are no longer there. Recently, you posted on your X account, and you said that the World Bank is giving us 2 trillion shillings for the next 3 years. The IMF is giving us over 680 billion shillings. That, in total, is about 2.6 trillion shillings, based on the current exchange rate. Now, part of the reason why our debt is beyond the ceiling that was of 10 trillion shillings by June next year is because of what has happened to the US dollar. If you add what you've gotten from the two global institutions, it takes us to close to 13 trillion shillings already in the next 3 years. Why then have a debt anchor of 55% to the GDP, which are already busting?
For your information, and it's a very good question you've asked, most of that money we have negotiated will actually replace. We are getting money at 2-3%. We are replacing it with money we are paying 15-16%. And the killer on our debt is the interest, the amounts of interest we are paying. It's not even the principal that is a big problem. It is the amount of interest we are paying. Because if you are paying interest at 16, I think the euro went to 20% at some point, you know. That is what is destroying our economy. So we are not necessarily increasing the debt portfolio. We are substituting debt that is expensive just so that it is manageable, and then it can give us the space to be able to grow our economy. That is the context. Mm-hmm. So what the international community have supported me to do is to replace the Eurobond, which is $2 billion. Yeah, $2 billion of very expensive money at 20%, with money that we can manage at 2-3%. That is the difference. And by just doing that, we will save on the 7 shillings we are paying for every 10 we collect to pay debt. That will significantly come down. So that is what we are. That's what I am doing, because that is what is feasible as we talk. As I embark on growing the economy. And growing the economy is investing in the right place, making sure that our agricultural production is up to the scale. It is the reason why I am improving the whole agriculture chain. I'm building 400 markets. I promised Mama Mboga that they will do a business in a good place. Building 400 markets. I am building 47 county aggregation and industrial parks to add value, to add to process, so that we get more value from our production. And if you saw this, this is when is today? Sunday. If you saw last week, we just advertised for the infrastructure of our 6 special economic zones. Again, these will become engines of exports, because we have to grow our exports. We need to stem imports into Kenya, but we need to increase more exports so that we can get more revenue, grow jobs locally. And you see, my focus is to make sure that we expand the space of people who are working. And it is going to be deliberate. It's going to be difficult, but it must be deliberate. That is why housing is one plank where we're going to create jobs. Agriculture is another space. In the special economic zones and the exports and that space, we're going to grow jobs. The digital space, which I have negotiated with Facebook, I've negotiated with Meta, for us to have digital jobs in Kenya. You already know that the number of people who are working in the digital space. And we are going to export more labor. As I talk to you here, there are people being trained in NYS today for people who are on the space of export of labor. Because we have to have
identify them?
Interventions. We have to have, I mean, it is different. They are nurses. There are adverts that the Ministry of Labor goes out to look for them.
Mheshimiwa Rais, kuhusiana na ada ya nyumba umeitaja, unafahamu kwamba kuna Wakenya wengi bado hawajaridhia, licha ya kwamba kuna agizo kutoka mahakamani, na nakumbuka juzi ukiwa kwenye mkutano wa diaspora pia ulisisitiza ukasema kwamba housing levy lazima itekelezwe na kadhalika. Hebu tuelezee, kuna mabadiliko yoyote baada ya mahakama kutoa agizo lake na wewe kuendelea kusukuma kwamba ni sharti Mkenya atozwe hii ada ya nyumba?
Mahakama walisema hivi. Mahakama walisema hii ada ni sawa kama Wakenya wote watalipa. Right? That's what they said. They said it should not be discriminatory.
Mr. President, they didn't say that.
Kuna mkakati
exactly what
they said it is as it is discriminatory. And therefore unconstitutional.
No,
you interpret it.
The problem of unconstitutional was made by the media.
No, they said it's null and void.
So if it is unconstitutional, why did the court say we should continue to collect?
Because there's an application for stay orders.
How do we continue? No, how do we continue to do unconstitutionality?
No, Mr. President, at least we can agree on what the court said.
Yes.
And the court said that we've looked at everything and we arrive at the decision that this is discriminatory. Because of that, it doesn't agree with the Constitution or Article 10 on governance. And therefore it is null and void.
No.
Kingine ambacho labda Mheshimiwa Rais nikuongezee, ilisema mahakama pia ilisema kwamba hakuna mkakati maalum kupitia KRA jinsi fedha hizi zitakusanywa.
Absolutely. Now that is what they told us to fix. And that is why we now have a law in Parliament. What the court said there are institutions that are not paying. There are groups that are not paying, that are not paying in the current setup. And we have said we are expanding the net of the payers. It will give us actually more money so that we can do more houses, which is a very positive thing that the court has done. And they have said establish a mechanism how this money will be used. We have put a mechanism in law how it's going to be used. Let me tell you, good people, we can argue about this or that or the other. My question is, do we have a problem of housing in Kenya? Yes. Do we have a problem of jobs in Kenya? Yes. Can we sort out? Because it is one thing to argue, even if you are a judge. And I am sure that is what went through their minds. Because the judges are also Kenyans. They know we have millions of young people out there who are jobless. A story was carried, for example, in one of the media houses here. I think I saw it on KTN. Saying the crime rate in Ruiru has gone down because there are many people working in the housing program in Ruiru. I did not make the story. It was in KTN. And that is the truth. So, even as you sit as a judge, even as you ask me a question as a journalist, we are discussing housing. Housing is an opportunity to do three major things. Number one, to create jobs. Is it a good thing for us to create jobs? These are not the children of William Ruto. These are the children of all Kenyans that will work. They will work as architects, they will work as engineers, they will work as carpenters, they will work as masons, they will work in whatever field. Some of them will be working in factories that are creating steel. Some of them will work in factories that are making for us cement to do the houses. Is it a good job? Is it a good thing? Do we have a problem of unemployment in Kenya? Yes. We need to sort it out. It has to be sorted out somehow. Number two, do we have a problem of industrialization? Do we have a problem of manufacturing? Yes. How do we create more manufacturing jobs if not through programs like housing? How do we reduce the problem of land fragmentation, where land that is supposed to be used for agricultural productivity is now being subdivided for people to live? If we provide alternative housing, we will save the land that is going to settlement. We will use it to produce food so that we stop the slide into food insecurity, and we begin to tame the problem of high prices of food.
Mr. President,
these are obvious, and that is why I am very confident that the court will look at it, look at what is the public interest, what is the public good that comes with housing. Let me ask finally, to own a house in Kenya today, you need to have 4 million, 5 million, the simplest, the cheapest house. We are giving an opportunity through this affordable housing program for a mamamboga or a boda guy to buy a house of 400,000 where they can pay 4,000 shillings a month and eventually own a house. I mean, we are giving dignity to every Kenyan. And let me tell you, finally, housing was a program that was in the UDA manifesto, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, 1.5%. It was in Azimio manifesto, 1.5%. Yeah, and we all know that it is the right thing to do because other countries have done it and they have made a big difference. We have had this housing thing for as long as I have been a politician, but nobody has had the courage to implement it. Nobody has had the plan to do it.
Have you stopped to wonder or ask what the people think, what their sentiments are about this? Because times are tough, Mr. President.
Put in mind, 70% are saying no to this program.
Yeah. Just wait. I want you to go to where these Kenyans are working. Go and ask them. Go and ask them. The beneficiaries, the people who are working today, they are not even the owners. They are just working. Go and ask them. And you see, this is the beginning of a program. Give it time. Kenyans will come to appreciate that, yes, my son is working, my daughter is working. If they are not working at the construction site, they are an architect, or they work in some company, they are an accountant in some company that is doing cement and construction products. And let me ask you, countries like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Korea, we all have been talking about them. We've been saying, oh, you know, we were at the same level with Korea, but today they are different from us. They made tough decisions. That's why they are where they are. We have to make tough decisions if we have to catch up. I mean, if we want to continue to make convenient, politically correct decisions, we will continue to remain in the same place. And I know, for example, that it is politically expensive. I would be a very popular person if I abolished tomorrow. I said, okay, let's forget about the housing thing. People will clap for
Mr. President, I don't think there's anyone saying that you should stop it.
I don't want to be...
Mr. President, if you remember, Mr. President...
I want to transform Kenya.
Yes, if you remember...
Transforming Kenya is not a walk in the park. Transforming Kenya is not going to be done using convenient, politically correct, popular decisions. Some of the decisions may be difficult now, but we will all see the benefits as we go.
No doubt about that, Mr. President.
It is the wrong time. We've had housing as a plan for the last 50 years. Are you telling me for the last 50 years there was no correct time? It is never too late. It is never wrong to do the right thing.
Mr. President, just let's stay to the housing fund. Because when it started and you were walking around the country and selling this dream to many Kenyans, you told us this was a fund and we will contribute. And if you didn't want the house or didn't benefit, at the end of the day, you would get your money out at some point. Then overnight, in Parliament, it turned into a levy and a tax. What really changed and what caused you to move from a fund which was really, really contributory to this discriminatory fund that even the court has found to be? And does this mean that this plan changed overnight, or what really happened to cause you to make these changes? And just to stay on that point, was it necessary that we would start all these funds together in terms of, was it a must that you start the housing fund? You are here fighting the fire of housing. Again, you start the health crisis. Before this is done, even it's off, you are dealing with the taxation, you know. And because of that, nearly every government agency is now waking up with taxes. So you find, you know, levies going up by 3,900%. You find even pets now being, they're going to be taxed. And Kenyans are wondering, what has happened? Do you feel that you're out of touch with the people that you lead? Because then it will explain some of the decisions that you are doing.
Thank you very much for asking that question. Let's start with the levy. I proposed a fund. Yeah? There is a principle in Kenya today called public participation. It went to public participation. And Parliament, when coming from public participation, came and said it should instead be a levy. Right? And as president, if the people said they wanted this changed into a different way of doing it, I agreed that, okay, let's go this way. But what did I do to make sure that it captures everybody? We changed the design of the whole delivery of the housing so that now we have social housing for the people at the bottom of the pyramid. We'll pay 4,000 or 5,000 shillings and get a house. We have affordable housing for people in the middle who will pay between 5,000 and 15,000 every month. But we have also included 30% of all the units to include the people who largely are the contributors. You know, the people who are the biggest contributors, the people in the middle class, who will pay now between 15,000 and 30,000. So we have made everybody a beneficiary, you know, in the chain, again, to mitigate against what you're saying. And what have we done? Mortgage today is around 17%. What we have done is that we have now reduced the mortgage. We are using the fund to mitigate the mortgage that you pay. And it is now gazetted that the people who will buy social houses, their mortgage will be at 3%. The people who will buy affordable houses, their mortgage will be at 6%. And the people who will be buying the market houses, we will reduce their mortgage by half. Even you. Instead of paying 18%, you will now have an opportunity to pay at 7%. So that way, we have carried everybody, making sure that everybody who is paying has a chance to own a house. And that is how we are delivering.
Mr. President, on the question of accountability, because it is good that you highlight what happened to the public participation, and you say that Kenyans said they don't want it as it was structured that time. You also attribute responsibility to Parliament that they decided it should be a levy. Then you say, yourself, let us change how it works. So I see a bit of distribution of responsibility. But did Kenyans tell you they wanted to be a levy or a tax?
What Kenyans told me is that they want jobs. Yeah?
On that particular question,
Kenyans
the participation was on the housing levy, Mr. President.
I was. But you know, when Kenyans tell you they want jobs, it is you as a leader to figure out where those jobs are going to come from.
And so you presented a housing levy in the finance bill of 2023.
I presented to the people of Kenya housing, and I told them I am going to create jobs using this housing. And they agreed with me. And I have created jobs using housing. The mechanism of delivery could be this way or that way. Did I make a commitment to the people of Kenya that I'm going to implement housing? Yes. Did I tell them we will create jobs using housing? Yes. Have I implemented the program on housing? Yes. Have I created jobs using housing? Yes.
That you did and you are doing.
And you see,
Mr. President, sorry for this, but Mr. President, you are saying that you promised all those things and you are doing. But when people tell you, we don't want it, it is too expensive for us, you change it from a levy, from housing fund, from a contribution to a tax that is not even, you can't recoup it after the 7 years. How did the translation into that become?
You see,
Vastzittende hoest, fluimuciel. Een antwoord op vastzittende hoest, hoe je die ook beleeft.
Sam, you know, you're splitting hairs.
I'm not splitting.
Yes, you are. Because what you are saying, you're trying to find fault. What is the greater good? What is the national interest? I mean, to you, does creating 120,000 jobs register anything good?
It is a good thing, but I'm asking you about public participation
that's making sure that an ordinary person who would otherwise never have a chance to own a home, now they have a chance to own a home. Does that make sense to anybody? Yes, it does.
And
so you see, if you pass an exam with 80%, it's an A, my brother. It may not be 100% what I wanted, but it is 80% what I wanted. It is doing 80% of the job. Surely give me some marks.
Mr. President, the question is at what cost? At what cost, Mr. President? Because granted, the people told you they need jobs. This means they do not have the jobs. This means they do not have money in their pockets. And in response, what you're doing is taxing them further.
But let me ask you, my dear sister, the people who are working today did not have a job, right? Those are the people in the street. They didn't have a job. The people who have a job have had to pay 1.5%. 1.5% so that we can give a job to somebody else. And for your information, that somebody else that is getting a job is a taxpayer. They contribute to what we eventually earn. Is it too much for us as public servants who earn a salary to give 1.5% of our salary so that somebody else, another Kenyan, who is also a taxpayer, who also deserves something, they don't have a job because the job maybe they would have, I have. But I'm being asked, contribute 1.5% so that that other Kenyan who is walking in the street can have a job.
But it's not just that, Mr. President.
Let me just finish. They too can own a home the same way you own a home. I don't think that is being asked.
It's not just that, Mr. President.
Bado hujalijibu la mwenzangu Wafula pale. Amesema iweje wakati huu ndio munaleta tuseme hizi taxations nyingi, mumeanza na affordable housing na bado hatuja elewa vizuri zaidi, tuko kwa health, bado tunajaribu taxations. Kwa nini zimekuja kwa wakati mmoja kiasi cha kwamba Mkenya anasikia uzito? Kwa nini isikwende step by step kiasi cha kwamba hata Mkenya atajua ni kweli tunasonga mbele lakini si finyiki, maisha yako sawa?
Wacha nikueleze. Mambo ya health kwa mfano. It is the profiling, it is the spin that you people are many people, let me not accuse you, many people are spinning it. What are we doing? What are we doing in health? We are saying in health, we want to reduce those who are, and they are, by the way, the majority of the people who are, when I spoke about hustlers, people thought I was not serious. I was very serious. That is why I am saying, those of us who have a job, let's contribute 1.5%, good people, so that those of us who are hustlers, the people in the street, can, even them, they can have a job. They now have 120,000 of them on a job. That's number one. On this, on the health, what are we doing? We are saying three things. Number one, for the first time, every Kenyan, even those who today cannot afford nothing, they will have a health insurance. For the first time. Number two, those who, and the kind of unfairness that there can be. Mama Mboga is paying 10% of our income for health insurance. William Ruto, the president of Kenya, is paying 0.001%. Why? All we are saying is let everybody pay an equal percentage of what they earn. Is that too much to ask? What will happen? The people who are paying 500 will come down to 300. Is there anybody saying that there are people who will get an insurance cover who do not have? No. Are there people who are saying that those at the bottom of the pyramid will reduce their money or their contribution from 500 to 300? No. The people who are talking are not talking about those things because they are not convenient and because many of us believe those people don't matter. I want to tell you, my friends, those people are also Kenyans. They matter the same way we do. Let us give them a chance.
And Mr. President,
let us give them a chance to also participate in Kenya. Let us give that fellow, that mama who has no chance. And let me tell you, for the first time, a person who would otherwise die of cancer or diabetes or hypertension, because when they go to hospital, they are told they don't have the money. For the first time, we have a special kitty, which all of us will contribute and give everybody a chance at life. I mean, my friends, all we are saying is, let us have a country where nobody is left behind.
Maybe the question...
Because we are just thinking about ourselves. Yeah. We are discussing how our salary is going to be, how 1.5% of our salary... There are people who have never seen who have never seen a pay slip. There are people who really, genuinely, don't have a chance at life. I am asking the rest of Kenya, please, let us give a chance at life to many more Kenyans than those of us who are employed. We are only 3 million. We have 10 million people out there.
Mheshimiwa Rais, umesema kwamba makato haya mapya ya bima ya afya yatashughulikia kila Mkenya kupata matibabu. Na kwa Wakenya ambao hawana uwezo wa kulipia bima hii, mtawashughulikia vipi kama serikali?
Kabisa, you have asked me the best question. Ukisoma sheria mpya ambayo tumepitisha hizi sheria 4, tumesema wale wa Kenya ambao hawawezi kulipa, serikali ya Kenya tutawalipia. Kila mtu atakuwa na bima ya afya.
Uko na takwimu ni Wakenya wangapi?
Na wale tayari tuko na wale ambao wako katika program hii yetu ya social cash transfer. They are about 2 million. But my estimate is that another 3 million will be in that category. People who cannot afford. Hawa pia watu karibu 5 milioni watapata bima ya afya, italipwa na serikali ya Kenya katika mpango mpya. Jameni, na wauliza wa Kenya, hata na wao ni wa Kenya, tuwafikirie. Na wale wako chini pale, karibu wa Kenya wengine karibu 8 milioni 9 ambao wanalipa saa hizi shilingi 500, tutawapunguzia shilingi 300 kwa mwezi. Na wale hawana uwezo kabisa tutawalipia. Na jambo lingine la muhimu zaidi, wacha niwaambie, hii ni ya muhimu na Wakenya wasikie. Pesa ya NHIF kwa sasa.
Deze video wordt mogelijk gemaakt door de hoteldeals van Social Deals.
Zo, dat is chill.
Karibu 50% inabebwa na watu wanafanya kitu inaitwa fake claims. Mumesikia kwa mfano kuna hospitali moja hapa Kino. Mumesikia? Ilikuwa kwa vyombo vya habari. Ati wanafanya operation ya upasuaji kuzidi Kenyatta, Aga Khan na hospitali zingine zote combined. Ni nini wanafanya? Ukora mtupu. Yeah? Wanaenda saa zingine wanatangaza ati kuna medical camp. Lakini ile medical camp sio eti ya ukweli, ni